Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week. Bernie, AOC, Mamdani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're democratic socialists, and that's a very different...
If you have ever watched the Democratic Party flirt way too hard with socialism, this is basically that moment when your friend yells, "This time he targeted AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Zoran Mamdani. He is staging a full political intervention. Maher, a Democrat practically since the Stone Age, now sounds like the designated driver watching friends take tequila shots at 2 a.m. He stares at AOC and her rising socialist protege, Zoran Mamdani, begging, "Stop. For the love of political survival, just stop." Of course, they are not listening. They are doubling down. Just meet him. He is great in person. It is political Tinder. Swipe right on socialism and hope it works. Here is the twist. AOC calls for open minds and face-to-face talks. Yet she rarely offers the same courtesy to Donald Trump or most conservatives. Even moderates in her party are raising eyebrows so high they are nearly in orbit.
What do you say to the skeptics, though, in the party, or want to keep him at arm's distance? Some who have some problems with him, even some fellow New Yorkers in the swing districts outside the city.
Get to know him. Get to know him. You know, this is not about having any kind of hard line. I think that if anybody is skeptical, I would say get to know him. And once you get into a room with him, kick the tires yourself and make your own assessment instead of just kind of making assessments from what you may see on television. If you have the ability to meet someone in person, you should meet him before you...
And Maher, well, he is not holding back. He pulls out one of his favorite comparisons. Capitalist South Korea versus socialist North Korea, seen at night from space. The other looks like the power was shut off nationwide. Then he shifts to Venezuela, once richer than Poland in 1990. Poland chose capitalism. Venezuela doubled down on 21st century socialism, which turned out to be the old school version. Basically, the greatest hits of failed economics. Maher's message is simple. New York is not a magical exception. Socialism does not work just because it is in a coastal city. Try to reinvent the wheel, he warns, and do not be shocked if it hits you. Still, Zoran Mamdani is not selling fantasy promises. He is young, energetic, and pushing policies that historically sink economies. Maher does not cheer the enthusiasm. He looks around the Democratic Party asking, "Is anyone else seeing this? Are we sleepwalking toward 2028 blindfolded?" AOC says critics should just meet Mamdani. Maher says they should meet history, which has never lost when it comes to socialism failing hard. Bernie's lifelong mission has been single-payer health care for all 340 million Americans. But when Vermont tried it for just 626,000 people, it collapsed fast. The lesson is simple. If Vermont could not do it, why would New York?
I know the kids think that stuff that happened before their appearance on the planet didn't really happen, but it did. We've run this experiment many times, and the results are always obvious. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, home.
Maher keeps pressing the point. Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Zoran Mamdani are not really Democrats. They are democratic socialists, which is a totally different category. And they openly admit it themselves. No hiding, no embarrassment, no excuses at all.
Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century or any century, a mess. It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening.
The problem? The politicians attacking capitalism owe their fame to it. Bernie's Book sales, AOC's brand deals, and their massive social media reach all come from the system they criticize. None of that exists under real socialism. The system judges you instead, and then you quietly vanish.
This election is taking place when we have an administration in Washington which every day is moving us toward an authoritarian society.
This is America, New York City. Don't let them tell you any different. Don't let them tell you that we are the exception. We are the rule. And we set the bar for America. I'm talking to you, Donald Trump.
Let our words ring out so loud tonight that Andrew Cuomo can hear them in his $8,000 a month apartment. New York is not for sale.
That contradiction is what completely exhausts Maher. The people shouting that capitalism is broken are the same ones thriving inside it. That does not mean capitalism is perfect. But compared to socialism, which has a perfect failure record, capitalism starts to look like the stable partner in a bad relationship. Socialism is the ex-promising change while holding a gas can. Maher then points to Virginia Representative Abigail Spanberger. She warned years ago that Democrats would collapse if they moved too far left. Her advice was simple: stop saying socialist. Moderates win elections. Extremists get attention, not wins. And she proved it. She won by rejecting radical branding. Listen? Of course not. They tossed her advice straight into the ideological trash. This is where Maher looks like a disappointed dad. Democrats are not led by moderates. They are dragged by the fringe. Loud, flashy voices that reflect Twitter more than voters. It is political Russian roulette, except with 4 bullets loaded.
Now, Mendami seems like a nice guy, and I congratulate him on an extraordinary political achievement. But before the whole left side of the country catches socialism fever, let's listen to the other big winner in last Tuesday's election, Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, who, before the 24 election, said things like, if the party didn't shift to the center, we will get torn apart. And we need to never use the word socialist or socialism ever again. Well, she was right, but they didn't listen. Typical, am I right, ladies?
And the silence from moderates is painfully loud. That silence is not neutral. It is permission. When a party refuses to control its extremes, those extremes do not just influence it, they become it. Meanwhile, the data could not be clearer. In 2024, 13 Democrats won in districts Trump carried. Every one of them was a moderate. Not a single Democratic socialist succeeded. Analysts reviewed the data and reached the same conclusion. Move to the center. Even the New York Times admitted the middle path wins. But did the DNC adjust course? Of course not. They treated that advice like something to blend and ignore. Moderates were sidelined while socialist messaging increased. The party is not fully leaving capitalism. They are quietly flirting with socialism, sending late-night texts asking, "You up?"
At least the party has a clear choice here, very clear. One wing is saying don't ever use the word socialist again, and one is saying,
I am a democratic socialist.
clear, huh? So how do we decide who's right? Well, it turns out we don't really have to flip a coin. We have the evidence. In 2024, 13 Democrats won in districts Trump also won, all moderates. This isn't rocket science. All the left-leaning think tanks have done autopsies on 2024, and they all came up with the same message: move to the center.
Maher warns that choosing ideology over electability is a guaranteed way to lose. He notes that the DNC's worst losses happen when they lean hard into woke performances, symbolic battles, and fringe obsessions instead of winning issues.
Even the New York Times, which did so much to promote woke politics, now says the partisans are wrong. Moving to the center is the way to win. And Democrats should recognize the party moved too far left on social issues after Obama left office.
Voters are not looking for a political TikTok performance. They want competence, balance, and reassurance that the party is not run by people who think Twitter equals reality. And Maher is right. Americans on the left, right, and center are not demanding a revolution. They want stability. They do not want socialism. They want real solutions. Yet the DNC keeps acting like the friend who ignores every warning sign and still asks, why do I keep dating toxic people? Maher lands one final major point. Socialism does not just fail. It fails loudly. It does not fade away quietly. It crashes hard. History is filled with these attempts, and the pattern never changes. Shortages, runaway inflation, economic collapse, and mass migration. Venezuela is the latest example. 8 million people, about the population of New York City, simply left. So, when an OC says New York is the rule, not the exception, Maher flips the argument. If that is true, then prepare yourselves. If socialism is the rule, the result will not be prosperity. It will be collapse. He then returns to Bernie's Vermont experiment because it is impossible to ignore. On paper, single-payer healthcare sounds great. In speeches, it feels inspiring. In reality, it fell apart fast. Costs exploded. The math did not work. And this happened in one of the most liberal states in the country, the perfect testing ground for socialist ideas. If Vermont could not make it work with everything in its favor, how is New York, a massive, expensive, complicated city, supposed to succeed?
Zoran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar. Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week.
Maher's final message is blunt. Democratic socialism looks great in theory, like a dating profile packed with filtered photos and motivational quotes. But meet it in real life, and the consequences tell a very different story. And that story usually ends with economic crisis. As he closes, Maher reinforces the message he has repeated for years. America does not want fringe ideology. America wants pragmatism, competence, and common sense. If the DNC wants to win in 2028 or ever again, they must stop chasing ideological purity and start appealing to the voters who actually decide elections. But will they? Or will they keep ignoring moderates and swiping right on political disaster? Only time will tell. And that wraps up today's commentary. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like the video, subscribe for more analysis, and leave a comment sharing where you think the Democratic Party is headed. Is this just a temporary detour into ideological fantasy, or a long-term shift that could cost them everything? Let me know below.